Now, as people start to clean up after the devastation left by Hurricane Harvey, many people are looking at the role of that climate change had made in making the disastrous storms even more powerful. Now, one of these people is Senator Bernie Sanders, who has been criticizing the absence of climate change in response to Hurricane Harvey. In fact, let's take a look at that. He was on with Chris Cuomo talking about this. Let's look at that conversation.
I asked the president's senior counsel, Kellyanne Conway, about it. She berated me. And then we heard Secretary Pruitt today push the same suggestion to the side, and that is, should part of the conversation at some point be about why these happen and if climate change has something to do with it? Both of them dismissed that as being disrespectful to the plight of the survivors on the ground. What do you think?
No, this is what I think. Obviously, the task right now is to save lives, to do everything that we can to rescue people. The task right now, and it's a very difficult task, is to make sure that people who have lost their homes, lost everything that they own, are treated with dignity and respect, that we try to find safe housing for those people. That is the immediate task. But I think it is pretty dumb not to ask some hard questions about why more rain is now falling and has fallen in the Houston area, as I understand it, than any time that people can have measured. Is it related to climate change? Is some of the intensity and the magnitude of this rainfall related to climate change? I think most scientists believe it is. And the right question to be asking is, what does this mean for the future? Are we going to see more storms, more rainfall of this magnitude? And of course, that is an issue that has to be looked at. It is my view that Trump is dead wrong when he talks about climate change being a hoax. I think it is a very serious problem for our country and around the world. I believe that we have to transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to sustainable energy and energy efficiency.
All right, so look, this was in response to the White House essentially not acknowledging the role of climate change in creating these superstorms or in fueling these superstorms. Now, Bernie's right when he says it's dumb to not ask these questions, of course. And the answer you'll get when you ask a question is yes. Climate change has been shown to feed into storms. Look, what creates a hurricane? It's warm water, okay, or helps create a hurricane. Having different pressure systems. And warm water will feed into this. That's what happens, like, whenever one of these storms makes landfall, it starts losing energy. It gets its energy from warmer water. Well, what creates the warmer water? Again, more sun, more energy from the sun. And of course, what climate change does, very, very simply broken down, is that it keeps more energy in from the sun instead of reflecting off the ice caps back into space. Okay, so that's what carbon does. It traps heat. The heat comes back down. It warms up the land. It warms up the water. That water feeds into storms. Okay, it's a little complicated, but I, kind of simplified it just a little bit. Now, that's the thing, right? Now, climate change, as I said, it makes the water warmer, feeds into these storms, makes them stronger, makes them last longer. Okay, now, this is why the role of climate change is why Harvey has been called a once-in-a-thousand-year storm. It's not the fact that it happens once in 1,000 years. It's that we haven't seen something this powerful in 1,000 years, this kind of storm. And look, we also have temperatures that are consistently breaking records. And look, even if it might be a little chilly where you're at, okay, right now, that doesn't mean that the globe, that the planet isn't warming overall. Okay. Now, it's a shame that people in the White House, well, they don't accept what's basic science. This is basic science. Okay. And now I'm going to go further, a little bit further than Bernie Sanders and say that not acknowledging the role is not only dumb, but it's somewhat dangerous, right? These storms should be a wake-up call. Wakey, wakey, man. This is happening, and it is real. And we actually have to do something about it before more lives are lost. And look, if you're not ready to have this conversation after these kinds of storms, then I just wonder what it's going to take. If 97% of the world's scientists do not convince you, if the appearance of more powerful superstorms happening more often doesn't convince you, then what will? I mean, look, we have evidence from ExxonMobil, the fact that they knew about climate change, and they not only lied to their investors, but they also lied to the public and started funding think tanks also so they could make a buck. That's from their own internal documents. You can look that up. I mean, look, what is it going to take? I know there are some people out there that won't accept the reality. And I think I understand why. It's because it's scary, right? It's actually really scary to know that this is happening. And it might mean changing the way that we do things. And it might even cost temporarily somebody their job. Maybe their coal job or their oil job while we transition to something that's different. And I get it. People are afraid of that. But the stakes right now are big. Much, much bigger. By the end of the century, they're forecasting huge temperature changes, massive migration, floods in some places, famines in others, humanitarian disasters that we haven't seen before. Now, if we want to prevent that, we can actually do something. We can actually work to develop that energy infrastructure based on more renewable energies. If that makes sense, we should be doing that already. Because eventually, oil and gas and coal, they're going to run out. So why base your own economy on something that runs out when you can have a renewable? And guess what? Renewable energy means jobs. Solar is actually one of the fastest growing industries in the United States. So there are plenty of jobs there if we actually invest in it and stop giving subsidies to big oil. But if we continue to ignore it, while the Trump administration is, in order to prop up some of these failing industries like coal, we not only do a disservice to the workers who could be retrained for better jobs in the future, but for the world at large. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.